Now, Dr. Klein, if you want to interrupt me at any time and say, Don, we don't teach it that way, please feel perfectly free to do that, because I understand that not everything here is necessarily in the same sequence that all schools teach. And so you may please feel free to comment at any time through that to add something or say, well, we do that a little bit later on in the process of Bible study. But if I were looking at Acts 10:1, what are some of the things I would do to study this passage if I were going to preach or teach it, or even for my personal use? So I would look at Acts 1, or 10:1, that is, and of course you would want to read this text in a variety of different ways. You'd want to read the book if you can, and read it very thoroughly and very carefully. And you'll notice that as you're reading through, I can highlight different things, and I can see information about the words down here on the lower left-hand corner as I highlight the different words here in the King James. Now, this is a King James with Strong's, which means it has embedded Strong's number in the background, which gives you information about the word. See, all I have to do is just hover over like so, and I can get additional information. At some point, and it may not be right away, but at some point in your study, as you look through the book and look through this particular chapter, you may want to add a parallel pane. So I would just go here, and let's say I want to add the ESV. Now I have two different translations open. Now you'll notice that they will all scroll together with me as I scroll through the text here. You'll also notice that you can hover over one, and it will highlight the other text. So here the ESV translates the word household. Here the King James says house. So you can easily see, it says always, and then the ESV says continually. So you can easily see differences between the texts if you want to see that as you're reading through the book. In fact, you can even compare the text, and it will tell you here where some of these differences are. So it says there's a certain man in Caesarea, and here it says at Caesarea, etc., etc. So it's very easy to tell differences between different translations and to compare them side by side. Again, you may want to do this later in your study. So one of the things that I would look at in doing a study is, especially if I were preaching on a particular passage, would be to try to determine where the boundaries of that passage are and how much I might be able to fit in my allotted time. One of the things that can be helpful is just looking at the paragraph divisions and seeing if it picks up with a different thought pattern later on. So here I have a natural paragraph that was put in by the translators, and here at verse 8. So I might want to look at that and say, well, maybe if I'm preaching through the Bible or through the book of Acts or something, maybe I would want to cover Acts 10:1 through 8. So that's certainly not set in stone, but that is something to pay attention to. And you don't necessarily have to have the Bible read that way. I can come here, and let me see if I can do this real quick, if I can remember quickly where it is. In my appearance, I can text display, I think it is. I have it set up with paragraphs with space, but I could just do it separate verses like this and hit OK, and now you'll see that, every verse is on its own line. Well, I prefer paragraphs with space, so I'm going to change that back to my text display and put that here, and that just helps me to find out where some of the divisions are in the text, but you can have it any way you like there. So I can look at this. Some other things I can look at if I wanted to look in parallel, which is really cool. I can go over here and look at my text, and perhaps I want to look at a Greek text while I'm reading this. This will help me too. Let me go ahead and here I'll pull up the Textus Receptus. I think that is the preferred Greek text that you use at your school. But see, I can then hover over a word in English and see the Greek. You don't want that to be too much of a crutch. It's good to learn Greek, but that is something that's available to you when you're just going over a text. It's very, very simple. Again, this will track with you. Words will highlight, and the reason why these highlight is that the Texas Receptus is tagged with Strong's, as is the King James. So that's another cool thing you can do. And you could put multiple Greek texts, you could put multiple English texts up, as long as they have the Strong's or their tag text, you'll see this cross highlighting there. So that's very, very helpful that you can do. Now, another thing you can do too, if you're studying, a lot of schools say, well, why don't you outline the test, do like sentence diagramming, things like that, so you can see, well, what's the main thought, what's a subordinate thought, those kinds of questions you may ask. So you can just take a section here, and I'm going to go up here to language, and I'm going to say diagram. So now when I diagram, you see that I can do different things with this text. I can take it, I can drag it over here, I can put different lines and marks there, see if I can drag that over, etc., and I can diagram the text in great detail if I want to through this passage. You know, sometimes some pastors do, some pastors don't, but a lot of schools at least discuss the benefits of diagramming. So you can do that and outline the passage that you're studying and look for those main thoughts and maybe the secondary thoughts and those sorts of things. The other thing that's very, very important is to look for background information. And one of the things that's very, or let me back up here a little bit. Well, I'll tell you what, let me look at this and then I'll go and look at keywords. Background information, here there is a certain man in Caesarea named Cornelius. One of the things I would want to look at is information about the book of Acts. Who was it written to? What's the timing? What were the main things that the author was trying to get across? What was on the heart, or what concerned the author? All I did here, if you look at this, all I did, we have this info pane, and it's designed to help you get to stuff quicker. So I'm on Acts 10:1. It says Acts 10:1, and here it has text, Book of Acts. All I do is click on it like so, and now I have a dictionary article on the book of Acts, the 5th book of the New Testament, composed by the author of the Gospel of Luke, etc., and you can go through and read a good amount of information about the book of Acts and how just background information. Now, if I wanted to, I can go to another dictionary there, and I can toggle through different articles and see what they say as well. Other dictionaries that I have, I'm just using an arrow. If it said Acts of the Apostle, it would come up with an article. Or I just could have put in Acts, book of, or something like that and come up with more articles. So I would want to do that for background information. Another thing you could do is look at some of commentaries in the introductory portion of that book and get background information. The temptation is to look at the commentaries ahead of time, sometimes even before you read the text, and we don't want to get other people's ideas before we let the text speak to us directly. But very, very helpful things here. If I want to hear certain Cornelius, well, who was Cornelius? So I can just go here to Cornelius, and now I get an article on Cornelius. So again, some of these English tools can be helpful for understanding the background of who it's written to, when it was written to, what were the main points, the reasons why it was written, those sorts of things, circumstances. You know, one of the cool things is I can even look at a timeline, and I think it's a timeline to get additional background information. So I can go here to my timeline, and I'm going to just type in Acts. Okay, here we go. Now it's going to give me an approximate My go to training is in the way here. Okay. An approximate date on that. Can everyone see the time? Linda, can you see the timeline?
Yes.
Okay. So what I can do is I see that the timeline is approximately in the early 60s, mid 60s. So I can just take my timeline, go like so, and click in there. And now I've got background information from culture of what was going on. It was in different parts of the world. You can see right here, just again for some quick background information. I'll show you some more things about the timeline as well. But again, I can do the timeline because all of this is integrated in, which I think is I think when I was in school, when I was in college in the mid to late 70s, we didn't even have computers. So this is just a tremendous benefit to students now to have access to all this information. So the other thing, like I said, the Bible dictionaries, like we just showed, can be helpful. The other thing I'm going to want to do is look at keywords. So I see here on my word list, Cornelius, Italian, Caesarea, etc., etc. I can look at keywords from the text that I have. I can also look at, let me make sure I stay on my notes here. I can look at these keywords. Now this is going to give me some idea of some of the keywords. Now see, the is at the end because it's not unique at all, but Cornelius is unique to this verse, and Italian is unique to this verse. Italian band is unique to this verse, even though band there is in italics. But I can look at different parts of this verse, say Italian, what's the Italian band? And I can even look at that. Go here to my Amplify, and let's see what I can find out here in dictionaries. I can go, let me just try Erdman's and see what happens. Oh, what's a verse reference? Just a second. I have to be real slick on doing this one. Let me see if I can try another one here. Let me try, Coleman might have something. See, Italian band. So it also can be called Italian cohort. So then it gives me information. Well, I might look at that and, you know, not to be trying to make a joke, but I might think, oh, was a band called the Italian band? Was that a musical thing or what? But I could just look at that and get more information about the Italian band by, again, looking at some dictionary articles. Now, like I said, you can look at the different morphology of words here. The word devout is adjective. It's masculine singular. It means godly or pious is a basic definition. And we can look at the number of words used in the original language that were translated by the same word. Now, this is something that people often, I hear in a lot of sermons that people can kind of get off a little bit if they're not careful. They could say, well, this word means this. Well, does it mean that in the Old Testament or Hebrew Bible? Does it mean that in the New Testament? Is it the same Greek or Hebrew word? Is it the same Aramaic word? How do we do that? Well, we can take this word feared, and I can search for the word feared. I'm going to just do the word itself in the King James like this, and now I'm getting all the places that the word feared occurred in the New Testament. Actually, it's not in the New Testament, in the whole Bible. So when I look at my analytics, I'm looking at this and saying, oh, well, look at all these Greek and Hebrew words that were translated feared, 75. So when I say it means feared, under what circumstances, under what word? Now here I can go back to my text, and I can also right-click and search it by the Strong's number rather than just the English word. And now I get a whole different group here. Now this is interesting here because in one place it says fear, another place it was translated afraid. Let's look at these analytics and see what we get here. feared, reverence. It even means reverent, or was translated as reverence in one case. Mostly fear or fearing or afraid. So you can begin to know a little bit more about a particular word just by right-clicking on it, either searching for the English word to see how many Greek and Hebrew words were used to translate it, or looking for the Strong's number. You can also do that in the original language. Any questions, Linda, coming up?
No, not seeing any questions.
Okay. So you can look at the number of words used. You can look at how an author uses a particular word, that sort of thing, where elsewhere in the Bible. And you may even want to look at original language grammars. Okay, here we are. Let me see what happens as we scroll through here. All right, now I'm on Acts 10:1, and here I have a grammar that probably mentions the span. Let's see. There we go, Acts 1 through 2. It picked it up there. So I might want to read that grammar and see if it had anything to do with my text. We go to another one here. Acts 10:1. So it gives some more information on a particular word from the grammar. Now, there is no way to easily do this in print. So sometimes there's certain grammatical rules or certain things that happen in grammar that influence the meaning of the text, but here Accordance has looked for those instances and try to help you find that information quickly. There's apparatus information too, which I won't go into too much. There's ancient manuscripts that you can look at too if you want to, if your text. You know, most of the time, most people don't do that in sermon preparation, but that is something that's available for more of the advanced student. So the other thing that you'll notice here, of course, as I scroll through, this info pane is tracking with me. See how the words are changing at the top as I go through this? The reason why this can happen is that Accordance is the absolute fastest program on the market. And the way the programmers wrote the code, we're able to load every book we have. I have every book we have virtually on my computer, and it goes through all of those. And it goes through everything. All I have to do is just scroll through, and it's tracking with me almost instantaneously. So I've got the ability even to look at an atlas, which I think that's absolutely amazing, like a map. So here we go. We see that the word here says Caesarea. All right. Well, let's see about Caesarea. Maybe we can get some more information about Caesarea. So here I get Caesarea, and I see there's Caesarea and Caesarea Philippi. So from context, I'd have to try to see which one it is. But here I can hover over. Now, just in passing, look at this. Look on the left-hand corner of your screen and look what's happening. Longitude, latitude as I move my mouse. I'm going to get in the green area. See, it says 627. I'm going to get in a brown area, 1,870 feet there. So this map is going to be sensitive to elevation, and I can show you why that's important later on. But let's say I wanted to find out more information about Caesarea. Watch this. Double click, and information about Caesarea comes up in our photo guide. Now this is real. I really enjoy this, because then I can establish by Herod the Great in 12 BC, tribute to Caesar Augustus, etc., etc. Great international seaport. Again, I'm getting information about the text. That he was in this town. And now if I want to go through this and read some more about Caesarea, look at this. Now I have archaeological pictures that Accordance has put in its program to give me a feel of Caesarea, give me some greater understanding. In fact, look at this theater here. I mean, you can take that and I can right-click, I can go over here, and within that I can then say copy picture selection. Let me see if it's going to let me do it with this track thing. There we go. Copy picture selection. I can go here to my Microsoft Word and paste that in, and there it is. Can you all see Word? What I just did in Microsoft Word?
Yes.
Okay, good. So I can do that very easily, and that can be part of my teaching, my presentation. It could be put on a slide or whatever if you're preaching. But again, I have all that information at my fingertips, which was very, very cool. Very easy to do. The only thing I had to do is I just looked here under Atlas for Caesarea. Cross-references are here as well that you can go to for different verses if you need to. And all of this is just in the info pane. So it's really cool what you can do with this and how quickly you can get information. The other thing, and I mentioned this toward a little bit later now, is that you can consult the commentaries. So if I want to see what Tyndale has to say on this verse, I just click on it, and now I get Tyndale information from this commentary. This assumes I've already done some of the preliminary work of working through the text. So I'm going to do this. I say, oh, that'd be a good quote to put in a sermon or something, or lesson or a paper or something. Again, now I can go to my word processor, paste it in, and I have footnote information down at the bottom automatically put in for me. So that can save me a lot of stress and aggravation. I remember in college, if I had a colon instead of a semicolon or a colon instead of a comma, I get my papers marked down because of that. So this will help you to avoid that, but it also helps in sermon planning to see or remember where you got the information from. So that's very important to do that over time. I can go to study Bibles. If I have a study Bible on a particular text, I can just click on that, and that will come up. And see here again, more information from this study Bible. By the way, we also have, I think, about 4 or 5 books from David Bernard. So if he mentioned Acts 10:1 in one of his books, that would cross-reference as well. So all of these books cross-reference in some way with one another. So that's another thing you can do. Also, what I would do if I'm still studying this passage is I would look at everything that the whole library had to say about Acts 10:1. And I'd probably do that for other verses following. So what I can do here, watch this. I'm going to hover right over Acts 10:1, and I'm going to right-click on it. So I'm going to right-click, and it's going to say Research. So what I want to do here, I have my own categories that I can research. You see all those down below where it says dictionaries, commentaries, etc., and I can do that individually, or I could do ones that I have done, and I can say I want to look at all my tools on Acts 10:1 and see what comes up. So now I'm doing that. Now what it's doing right now, it's going through thousands of books, searching for some reference to Acts 10:1. Now it might say Acts 8 through 11, and it'll still pick it up. But this is what's so utterly amazing, because what I just did might take you months to do in a traditional print library. So the question is, how much time do you want to spend flipping pages? How much time do you want to spend getting to the actual data? Here we have even Greek audio, different things in commentaries, IVP New Testament background, all kinds of things. Now, when I look at this right here in my results, I think, well, I don't know if I even want to open that up. So what you do is you hit More. Okay, I see a little bit more information, so now I'll just go ahead and open that up. And then that will open up for me, and I can see the whole thing, like so. Because you're going to get a lot of hits if you do everything like that, like I just did. But you can just limit that by looking at an excerpt and then deciding whether or not you want to open it up. And that literally is going to give you so much information that you will have if you were planning to preach a sermon, you will have a series. So you'll have enough information, more information than what you plan to receive, and then of course you have to figure out how to pare it down if you're going to preach it or teach it. So very, very helpful tool there. On doing that global search, you can also look in different preaching books. You can look at different illustrations, things like that. Here I've got, here's something on illustrations and quotes. Let me go ahead and put something here in English for illustration and quotes. I don't know if I'm going to get anything for acts. Let me just see what happens if I take acts. There it is. Oh, acts of kindness. So here's getting some other thing. And you see what doesn't gather go. Okay, it's doing the word act. It didn't do the verse act. I didn't tell it to do the verse act. So, yes.
Don, Paul has a question.
Okay.
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay. Can you put these in different, if I have like multiple screens, can I put these tabs in different screens?
Yeah, you can have different workspaces even on top of each other, and you can move tabs in different areas. And you can even, you can move it this way, and then you can have tabs in other screens and have them linked.
Okay.
So now I have a 27-inch monitor, so I just use one monitor, but we have some people I think who are using 3 different monitors too.
I have
and that's
4.
kind of 4. Well, I don't know. I don't know if I've ever tested. Know of anyone who's tested it with 4, but it's real nice. You may have different monitors for different sections of what you're studying, and that's really cool. But the other thing is that you can have different workspaces. See, so you may have a workspace that does reading workspace, or a word study workspace, or a illustration workspace. So I've made up all these different workspaces to do just to do samples of, to show people what they could do. And here's one for illustrations. See, so I have this resource here, which is the Church Fathers, what Church Fathers have said about different verses. It's a really cool resource because I can just go straight through my Bible and you see it's, and I can say, well, Augustine said this, or I can just go straight through. Gregory of Nyssa said this, or Basil the Great said this. So I'm getting quotes and illustrations, and then I also have it here on keywords that I can do. And that's just from a workspace, and I don't have to mess up with what I'm doing here to change that. So you can have workspaces, and you can have these different workspaces linked to different parts of one another.
Nice.
Very, very powerful. It's very, very powerful. Is there another question? I see my little icon jumping up, so that's what I wondered, Linda.
Yes, and I was on mute.
Okay.
I'm wondering if the books with this program are standardized in the STEP format. Basically, are they compatible with any other Bible software?
They are not. The STEP system, when's the last time that a company continued to use that? I know WordSearch did about 10 years ago, and QuickVerse did. So no, they're not compatible with STEP. The only thing I can suggest, if you have a large library from another company, is we do have crossover ability, to where if you say you own another company, you can get a discount on the same product in accordance, and that, or the same book in accordance, and it depends on the book as to how large that discount may be. Some of the publishers are more generous than others, so that's the only thing I can say. You might be able to take and copy it and make your own, make your own user tool. Here, let me show you. Let me show you something I did. Okay, should be able to open that. Let's see. Oh well, that's not much there, but you might be able to pull some of it in as a user tool, but you're going to have to do some formatting to do that if you pull a resource. Okay, here's one I pulled in, you know, and so that's kind of like making your own book from another book that you own, and that wouldn't cost you anything since you already own the book. But it's best, if you can, to get it in accordance if you like the accordance product. But STEP is pretty much non-existent at this point, unfortunately.
And we do have a webinar on that, on creating your own user tool. If a person is interested in learning how to bring that information in.
Yeah.
And Lisa has a question.
Okay.
Lisa, go ahead. Lisa, we're not hearing you, however. Oh, okay. She put in over here. How many parallel Bibles can you view at once?
As many as you have space for on your monitor. So let me just give some examples here. Let me put the ESV. I keep adding parallel here. Let's go with HCSB. Go with NAS. New King James. Now, I will tell you that I have my monitor resolution turned down, so I normally don't have my text this big, but that's because I'm broadcasting and I didn't want to make the text so small. Now, check this out though. Look at that. I think that's really cool to be able to do that, and it's cross-highlighting across everything. So, and then of course they're all going to track with you, and you can do it to where they don't track with you too. I mean, I could put 20 up there, I just don't have space for it right now with my current settings. Or you can put one also that it doesn't have to be tagged with Strong's number. You can just do something and, you know, like the message or something. I can put that. Now that's not going to cross highlight because I don't have, it doesn't have Strong's number. There'd be virtually no way to do that with the message, but I can see it if I want to. Again, of course, the message, as you know, is not a serious study Bible, but more like a commentary or a paraphrase. Probably it takes more liberties than any other paraphrase that I know of. So, yeah, as much as you have space on your monitor, you can do that. Any other questions? I'm going to get into some fun.
Paul,
yeah,
yes.
Okay.
Can you copy a verse through multiple versions at one time, or do you have to copy them individually?
I think you're going to do that individually. Linda, you know of any way of doing it all at one time?
I do not.
I don't think so.
Not unless you just do a print screen.
Yeah, but that's not. Yeah,
that's not really.
I can't
That's a
highlight.
good question. That is a good question.
Let me see something there.
You know what? If you search it if you search those Bibles, make a group of those Bibles, put them in the research tool, and search the research tool. Would that work? I have not tried it before. I'll try it.
I haven't tried it either. Let me see what happens here. Nope, that didn't work. Let's search for English, and let's only search text. I'm going to get a lot. Let me do something like, let's see what happens. Wow. Well, even that, it's doing it according to each translation. So if the word occurs more than once in each translation, you get all the times it occurs before you go to the next one. See what I'm saying? So that wouldn't work.
Okay, I was going to search by scripture. And use the equal sign, search by scripture, search in just a few texts. So you'd have to make a group. You'd have to make a group.
Oh, let's see what happens. All text, John 3:16 verses. Let's see what happens.
And do you have an equal sign above that? Oh, well, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. In text, it doesn't matter.
Okay, now, can I?
I chose the same one, right? At the same time you did.
Let me see what happens.
What?
I did it. You may have to do a little bit of editing.
Yeah.
And you can probably copy that without, you can copy, and in your settings you can say, well, I don't want these little letters there to be when I paste it in. You can change that setting, but I guess you could do that with your different translations. You just put in a verse or a range of verses for that, so you could do it that way.
And so you could make you could make a group of only the translations you want and make that into a group. Mm-hmm.
Yes, if you wanted to copy it that way, and just paste it in like that. And there are, I don't know if I were to, let me try this, John 3:16. Oops. Let's try this again. If I did this and just did a straight copy. Oh, wait a minute, I don't want to do that. I want to do, excuse me. I think I can have my citation setting to where I limit the text. I know I can limit the text size in my citation. So there. See, before it was bigger text, but I can do that. And I also could take out these additional letters here if I wanted.
May I ask a follow-up?
Yes.
Okay. So not just to compare the way that I do things now, but like in BibleWorks, I have a panel. And as I'm going through let's say an Old Testament verse in Ezekiel, I can have King James, NASB, and then I'll have the Greek Septuagint, and then I'll have the Hebrew on it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I wanted to look at that verse, all I have to do is scroll and copy all that section, and when I'm going verse by verse, each one of those changes. You don't have something like that here?
Oh, well, you can set up your text where you've got all these different texts, and they're going to change when you scroll. I could have a Septuagint, or in this case, I could have a New Testament. I could have a Hebrew New Testament. I could have different languages here, and they'll all scroll with me. As far as hitting one button that copies across, I'd have to play with that a little bit to get you a better answer.
No, that's good. That's fine.
Yeah, but yeah, you can absolutely. So you can even change these out here on the fly.
Yeah.
I can have all of these if I wanted to. You know, I've got all just an enormous amount of resources right here that I can swap out with.
What package is this on the?
Well, I have everything. I'm staying pretty. I'm not doing too much of the high end though, because I didn't want to show you something that would be out of reach. And the other thing I forgot to do earlier was I didn't show you how to take a particular word and just triple click on it. So if you take the word devout, 1, 2, 3, triple click on it, and now I've got BDAG. I've got the definition of that, like so. Yes. Or I can then I can go to something else. So here I've got Liddell and Scott. So here I've got Lowe and Knight, and I can just toggle through different lexicons, or I could set it up to where I have tabs for all that, and all the tabs will come up simultaneously. And again, I can have my Greek text right next to it if I wanted to. I can triple click on that, triple click on the English, or set my English to go to a basic translation or basic lexicon, or set my text maybe a Greek text to go to BDAG or Low-Nida or something like that. I sent my English text to go to something simple if I wanted it that way. What I did here is I just did everything, going to a more academic lexicon than what is set up by default.
Are you going to show the manuscript attachment to this, or does it have it?
Well, we do have it. I can, let me just...
You can do it, you know,
yeah, you can do it in parallel here. I can do it from the info pane, because the info pane here has, as I scroll down, I've got manuscript images here. I've got images here that I can zoom in on. I also have different codexes here that are searchable that I can use, and you see that I'm even getting cross-highlighting this way.
Oh,
again, this is something, though, that depending on how far you want to go, my personal experience with working with pastors is they don't go that far for the most part, and I'm not going to make a judgment one way or the other, all that, but if you want to go that far, it will go that far with you. And again, here's Sinaiticus that is does have tagging behind it, and also is searchable. Now, I also didn't show you this. Let me pull up a Greek text, another Greek text here, and I want to show, while we're talking about this, let me go, I'm just going to pull up an NA28 Greek text, or I guess I can do the same thing in Textus Receptus if you use that. Find it here. There it is. Okay, should have the same thing here again. You see what's happening with the searching with the instant details is giving me parsing information. Now I can go here pretty simply where I want to look up words by parts of speech, and I want to show you some. This is actually in my fun section down at the bottom, but I'll go ahead and cover it now. What I want to do is I don't want to look up specific words, I want to look up tags. So I'm going to enter a tag and I'm going to say verbs, and now I want to look up certain moods of verbs, and I want to look up imperative verbs. Now I could say not imperative verbs, or I can add imperative and indicative or whatever, and I can get more specific here by just filling in more things. So I'm going to hit OK. Now the other thing I want to do is I don't want to look at the whole Textus Receptus necessarily. What I want to do is I want to look at let's just look at Corinthians, say 1 Corinthians. I want to limit it to that. So now I've limited to 1 Corinthians. I'm looking for imperative verbs in 1 Corinthians. Now I'm going to hit 1, 2, 3. There it is. So it did it that fast, and now I have 99 hits for imperative verbs in 1 Corinthians. Now, as you know, imperative is, for the most part, it's a command. And so this is telling me, and I can check it, I just have to hover over it, and you see down here in the lower left it says imperative, and then it says verb imperative. Okay, now the cool thing I think for this is that you can then go to your hits graph, and now it's showing me some peaks on when those imperative verbs occurred. And what I find is that in Paul and also other writers is that they typically do not have a lot of imperative verbs in the first few chapters. And to me, I just find that fascinating, because here you don't really hit them until you get around 7, 8, and 9. You hit a peak of imperative verbs, but in the beginning he's kind of building up. He doesn't hit the imperative verbs right here. He begins to build up. So my personal interpretation of that is that he's just taking it easy while he's doing an introduction. He's not hammering them the first few minutes, as he's writing the letter. So I just think it's fascinating because you see those patterns in other books as well, but that's just something that Accordance just does very, very easily. Other question?
Yes, okay. Dr. Klein has a question.
Yes.
Thank you, Brother Gillis, for all the information you've given us. My question is, what you're showing us here for the Greek New Testament, is this available for the manuscripts? You were showing us Codex Sinaiticus, Codex Vaticanus.
I believe so. Let me see what I haven't done so. Oh, let me just pick it up here.
That would be based on the books themselves, correct?
Be based on the books and how they're tagged. I don't know how they're tagged. Okay. Let me see what happens here. I don't know if they're, well, they are tagged. But let me try it. I've never tried that, so let's try it. Looks like you can.
Oh.
I did whole Bible. Now the other thing you can do is cool too, is that you can set it up to search multiple texts at the same time.
Oh no, what you just showed us there, excuse me, Brother Gillis, let's jump in for a moment. What you just showed us there makes the value, makes the cost of this program very valuable to us. That's what we want to do. We want to be able to jump in here and go through some of these manuscripts as we do research. We may not want to do Codex Sinaiticus, but some of the other ones, if they're all tagged like that, I mean, that just justifies the costs.
Well, that and a lot of times you can do other research where you can look for similar phrases in one book of the Bible and another one to try to help determine authorship or writing style. And one thing that a lot of schools like to do, if they're doing a word study, they like to search it in maybe a Greek New Testament, but also search it in the Septuagint as well, and see if they can see any different types of uses between those two Greek documents. So you can do that, easily do that. We had one professor that at a well-known university was looking for phrases in the New Testament that were similar to phrases in the Septuagint, and he was doing a lot of that by hand. Well, he asked us if there were a way that we could automate that process, and it took us about 5 or 10 minutes to do that. And then I think we realized that he'd been working on this for months, and he'd done a lot of unnecessary work manually that he didn't need to do. So there's a lot of different things that you can do with the technology that you just can't do manually very easily.
Wow, great! I'm excited.
Are the actual manuscripts, the pictures of them, are those also in essence live? Can you?
Those are not tagged. No, those are just images that you can zoom in on and zoom out and see that. Those are not tagged at this time. That is a good feature to have, though, but we do have a lot of those manuscripts in this form to where you can search it that way, and you could pull it up in parallel. You could pull it up here in parallel. Let me see. I need to find it. I'll pull up here. You can pull it up in parallel so that it tracks with you. You also even have diagrams of the Greek New Testament too here. I don't know, a lot of professors just want you to do that on your own, but you have that will track.
Can you do the same thing with the Old Testament, with the like the Aleppo Codex, the Leningrad, or you have that ability too?
Let me check Leningrad. Images. Looks like I have the Codex images. That's not going to be tagged there. I'm looking for the Leningrad. I'd have to do some more checking on that. I'd have to ask someone who's more skilled in Hebrew and knowledgeable of that than I am, but I can get back with you for that if you want to email me.
Okay.
I can see that.
One of the things that I do is I want to compare the LXX with the what it would say in the Hebrew. So a word that would be in Corinthians, for example, how is it used? You're not going to find baptizo, but what did they use in baptizo for the Hebrew? So I like to compare the LXX with the Hebrew to find out what the original Hebrew word was.
I think the problem with that is that you have two different Strong's numbers for Greek and Hebrew. So that wouldn't easily compare. You could compare the, let me see what happened. You could compare.
So grace, right? Grace and chen in Hebrew. Carizo and chen. You'd have to look at both of them.
Yeah, I have to get back with you on that. Now we do have, and I didn't show this, but you do have an interlinear here.
Oh, okay, okay.
Now on the interlinear, let me move some stuff around here. You have an interlinear, and in this interlinear, let me go here. You can do different. You can put different things. Now we did have a Hebrew scholar. Let me see if I have it here. Let me go with Hebrew with MTLEX.
There you go.
So.
Nice. That's nice.
But see, on this Hebrew, you can kind of set it up the way you want to. And so you've got probably thousands of different ways you can set this up. See that? So that might be the easy way of doing that. But I can do some more research on that. I know that Emmanuel Tove is a world-class Hebrew scholar, has worked with us, and he does have some resources that also show the Greek and the Hebrew words when you're on a particular text. So,
thank you. You're most kind. I don't want to take any more of your time.
Let me go to a couple other things real quickly and show you some things that they aren't necessarily language tools, but some special searches for graphics and also commentaries. Now, one of the things that people don't know is that we have just an enormous amount of research capability in our apparatuses and our commentaries and so forth. So what you can do here is you can just add multiple layers on top of layers. So when I'm doing this here, I can say and or not, but here I've got all these different layers here. You see this? That I can look at with an apparatus. Again, what I showed earlier was some of the real more basic things, but you can get extremely detailed in what you're looking for because you can layer these together on top of each other. So that is more than any other company that I know of. Definitely more than Logos. The other thing you can do if you look at your atlas, I wanted to show you this, is the atlas actually has the ability to do a lot of overlays. So here I can go here, and I actually taught this in class. You can teach from a graphic, believe it or not, and teach theology from a graphic. So what I was teaching one night when I did this is what some of the scholars who contributed toward this project said the path was of Mary, pregnant Mary going from Nazareth to Bethlehem in the blue here. And I noted that if you look at the green area here, here's one place I'm at 348 feet, and here I'm in Bethlehem, 2480 feet. But I also noticed that I did from point A to point B on the map. So I did point A, point B, and look down at the bottom is about 70 miles as the crow flies. And then I also took this and I said, well, let's look at, oh, let me get a little bit better here. Let's look at this section right here. So I took that and then I said, I want to look at it in 3D. So then and Linda, tell me if you don't see does everyone see that 3D picture?
Yes.
Yes, and I'm.
So I wanted. Go
Could
ahead.
I just go ahead and unmute everybody so that they can interact a little bit?
Okay. Okay, but you can move that around. You can copy it into whatever, and the point of the teaching that I was doing is I said, well, there is a teaching out there that says once you become Christian, everything's easy. You should be rich. Everything is, you know, if you're really in the will of God, everything will go smooth. I thought that trip was not smooth. Not with that elevation and not with that distance. I don't care how Mary would have made that trip. It doesn't matter if she rode on an animal or if she walked. It doesn't matter. It's not an easy trip. But yet, how could she not have been in the will of God? Anyway, you just use that. There's certain things you can do with illustrations like that, just from pictures. And you have all these overlays, all these animations and things like that that are very, very helpful for teaching and preaching.
So how long do you think it took her to make it?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. It wasn't a day trip. That's for sure. And I'm just thinking of not just the length, but the elevation and the up and the down and up and down and up and down and pregnant woman and my, yeah, 8 months pregnant. I don't know, but all I know is it wasn't an easy trip. The other thing is for preaching, if you look at some other things, because just you can search things in ways they're not meant to be searched, and we're doing the same thing here. So I can say I want to search titles. See, again, I can search by reference title, English content, scripture, Greek I can search Greek or Hebrew content within a commentary. All these different things. So I'm going to search for titles. So I'm going to look at headings and subheadings. But then I'm going to look at the word priest. So let's say I was doing a search on priest or priesthood or something like that. I'm going to look at that, and what I'm going to do here, I think I'm going to, let's see, no, that's fine. Okay, then I'm going to do this. Okay, now what I've done here is I've looked at priests, but only if they're in a heading or subheading. If they're in the body text, I'm not going to show it. I didn't want to see that. But what I can do is isolate my findings and show text as paragraphs. So now when I show text as paragraphs, now look what I have. So if I were teaching on the priesthood of the believer or priests in general or any priests in the Hebrew Bible, I've got all this information about different aspects of priests right there at my fingertips, and I might have forgotten about some of these things if I were teaching on it. So again, it's taken a commentary to do something that it was not designed to do. But you can do that because you have the extra tagging in accordance, which makes it more valuable than print and more valuable than any other program that I know of. You have this capability. You can search punctuation too. I mean, if you want to search punctuation, you can do that. I oftentimes talk to people and I say, well, what book of the Bible has the most question marks? And now we know that question marks were added later. They weren't in the original text. But I can just do this and hit it, and it's done. It's got 3,298 question marks in the King James Bible. But then again, I can look at analytics and do a hits graph, and now I see a spike. Well, where do I see the spike? Right at Job. I click on that, I'm going to go right at Job is where that spike is. So why does Job have more questions? Because of pain causes you to ask questions. So there are things you can do with that. We have other things, stacks and paper, where you can take information, and I'll just take something from a dictionary here real quickly, and I can just, let me just go to something here. If I wanted this information, I can just right click it here, and then I can add it to a stack. Now when I add it to a stack, see, it just put it there. So many times when we do research, we find things that we don't need this minute, but we could use them a month from now. So there I can save it here and put it in here, and then if I wanted to, I can take and copy this and then put it in a paper, and I can choose an outline or something to put it into. You know, might have been a sermon outline. I could put that and paste it right in, and that could be part of my sermon that I help build. So we're trying to help you organize your thoughts that way. And you can save it for future use. You can do topical searches too if I want to search a topic. Well, of course, that helps to be in a Bible if I do that. But see, I can search for a topic. There's all kinds of topics that I can search for in the scripture, etc. But anyway, that's just kind of a quick overview of some of the things you can do. Are there any more questions?
No.
Okay. Well, let me talk about a little bit. If you were a student of Apostolic Theological Seminary, if you've printed out the sheet that I included in the Go to Training, you can get 40% off on the Learner, Discoverer Pro, and Greek and Hebrew Expert collections, a 40% discount. If you are not a student, you can get 15% off in fact, students and non-students can get 15% off of our regular price things on our website, anything, by using the codes. Shall I put those up there again and maybe type those in? And wanted to make you aware of that. If you want to do that, it's there for you. This is for the students. Let me make this bigger. That's for the students. And then this would be because you took the time to spend a Friday evening with me. That is case sensitive, and it does need the dashes on the top one. This is 15% off. And this is 40% off most collections. Now, let me talk with you just for a moment. I'll let you go. Why I like Accordance. I've been doing Bible software for almost 20 years, and so I know a lot about the different companies. One of the things that Accordance does, well, first of all, it's very fast. If you've seen earlier, I didn't preload things to make them look faster. So it'll run on Windows XP, it'll run on a 15-year-old machine, and it'd be acceptable. It's a very, very fast program. It's very powerful. It does languages exceptionally well. But one of the things that you need to be concerned about is the long-term cost of ownership. And Accordance by far has the lowest cost of ownership over the long term than your major companies, such as Logos and BibleWorks. The upgrades for Accordance run about $50. I've gotten bills from Logos for upgrades that wanted $300 with virtually no new books, and or pay them $90 or $100 a year indefinitely just to stay current. Accordance doesn't do that. We also can you can install it on 5 different machines that you own. One of those can be your spouse's machine. So the tech support, the training, all the training is free. Morris Proctor with Logos gets $200 a day for training. We don't do that. All our training is free. Even when we come to a location near you, you can come for a full day of training absolutely free. Though the company is really committed to scholarship and is committed to producing a high quality product and keeping it up to date. Where is it in terms of some of the free things online, some of the free programs like eSword or something like that? the number of resources that you can get in accordance far, far outweigh what you can get with eSword or the Word or something like that, probably 10 or 20 times more. So you're not limited to certain resources, and believe it or not, some of those resources in eSword or the Word, when you get into the new products, they can be very expensive. We have a full team of people for tech support. You can call and talk to somebody. You're not limited to just sending an email or hoping that someone in a user group or something will give you an answer. So it's really, this is what Photoshop is to the artist. This is to the pastor or the Bible student. And it is a high-end program. It does a lot of things very simply, but it is a very, very powerful program that the company takes pride in keeping it up to date. But that's one of the